Okay, well, welcome on board, IDeaS and Mike Chuma. I think next we're going to be looking at one of the most established and recognized technology in the space of revenue management. So thank you very much for joining us here. Mike, can you hear us okay?
I can. Thank you for having me, and I really appreciate having the opportunity to speak to you all. But I think one of the things that we want to talk about today is pricing power. So I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully I don't get this too mixed up. So is everyone able to see? Oh, there we go. Look at that. So I got to say, I do like this StreamYard item, but by a show of hands, a show of thumbs up, how is everyone today? Good? All right, perfect. Okay, so got 5 minutes here. I hope to be able to run through this quickly so we can get into some questions from the esteemed panelists here. But one of the things that we've continued to hear over the last quarter and even throughout the pandemic is unleashing this pricing power. We've seen a very, very strong movement in the marketplace in holding off some of the recessionary pressures, but continuing through, and hoteliers, in my opinion, have more confidence today than ever because of their ability for pricing power. But the thing that we really need to look through is I want to talk a little bit about the evolution of that pricing power. And so dynamic pricing evolution, if you think over the last 10 to 15 years in the hospitality industry, we've seen great leaps made in how hotels price their rooms. First, with the general idea of dynamic pricing to broad acceptance of rates floating within the best available rates starting back in 2008. Since then, the industry has continued its evolution, and many of us got away from fixed bar levels and finally moving on to the spectrum of prices between a minimum and a maximum by room type. At IDeaS, we call this continuous pricing. It allows hoteliers to optimally price each room type without rounding rules, or with rounding rules if you prefer, and based upon unique demand pattern of that room type. And other reactive systems use methods like offsets to room price types, and this of course leaves money on the table. And as you've seen over the last quarters with these earnings calls, there's a lot of money to be able to go get if you can treat your pricing power correctly. And you have to maximize that revenue for each room type based upon that demand. Now, pricing on the spectrum was a big step forward. However, we still see this as a very, very rigid environment where lots of things are derived from best flexible rate or bar. As you can see in this picture, the picture you see gets way more complicated. And imagine you're at a part hotel or a long stay property, and now you've got a tangled web of rate plans and products by length of stay with all these linked products. And depending upon what you're trying to sell, that can be very cumbersome. But we don't want to create a situation with a lot of compromise. So you have a lever to pull in this situation, and that's this big blue box up here, that best flexible rate. And that means that I, as a hotelier, have to balance getting the price correct for the best flexible rate with that demand for all those linked products with various fixed or slightly dynamic rules. In many cases, the RMS pricing or setup the hotel is using, they use those fixed offset rules that react retrospectively, so in the past, to what happens in the market. And in that cascading effect, any increase or decrease in price points for other rate plans choking off those demand can limit your revenue potential. Now, what if I told you didn't need to make this compromise? That it's constraining your revenue and there's a better way to price that allows you to free your property from these fixed values. So for product pricing, we look at it from a few key areas. So first, you must automate how you price the differences between the products or rate plans, and to break some of those fixed pricing rules with optimized pricing that we can capture more incremental revenue and improve the performance. So if you think about what that is, that guests are trying to book, if best flexible rate is not one of your most booked rate plans, should its demand patterns be driving the price for your other rate plans? No, of course not. But be sure the rate plans and the room types that are booked most often or have the greatest revenue opportunity are the ones that you are most confident of optimally pricing on their own demand patterns. Now, as an industry, we should be thinking about driving the price based upon the product that people are actually buying from us. And anywhere you can get started to flex that discount, you can grow incremental revenue by being very cautious about the way that you can achieve that. So we should start to think about creatively think creatively about how we craft the rules or the structures of the pricing for these products, depending upon the demand. Now, this opens the door in hospitality for us to start pricing these products optimally, but it also creates something that revenue management was founded upon, and that is starting to micro segment pieces of demand to better target those clients. Now, that requires yet another evolution, one that we've cracked. And that evolution is not just to say you think about pricing those products properly, but fencing them appropriately, and then targeting what you know about the demand for those products. And this is where we have to start thinking about some of these key principles. So a pricing strategy that is going to thrive in today's world requires you not only to break the fixed rules, not only to grow the revenue by fencing those products better, but to start thinking about how those products themselves respond to changes in price independently to the best flexible rate. And while doing so in an automated fashion, that's how we can truly learn about the demand for those different products. It's also important that we can start to micro-target guests based upon the things that we know. Now, if you have guests that never buy the flexible rate, you don't always show them that product first on your website. Why don't you show them products that are likely to be purchased first based on what you know about them? And that comes back to leveraging the data that you know from that loyalty perspective. So in this new approach, we are moving towards minimum and maximum pricing by room type and key rate plans, and being flexible about those gaps, moving away from those fixed rules that say the price should always be a percentage of, or I've sold X number of rooms, and so I'm going to apply some business rule against that discount. And hoteliers, we've allowed them to move away from these fixed pricing rules and to implement more flexible, tailored pricing strategies that proactively respond to that market's focus, to your market's focus. So that micro-targeting your business using the technology and what you know about the guest and the demand for each room type can help us maximize that product and that total guest spend at your property. Now, finally, if you think about how you're going to do that, I want to highlight what we think is a really good opportunity in the industry that we can provide, especially given that there's so much leisure demand and corporate demand is starting to return faster than expected. And with some of the undulations in our macroeconomic environment, at IDeaS, we provide this unique automation and that revenue optimal rates tailored for your guests, driven by your commercial strategy goals, using that micro targeting and that micro segmentation. Quite simply, you're able to find the right product for the right guest at the right time, and then be able to rebalance your capabilities of what to show them based upon what you think that they're going to book. Now, considering the strategy, guest behavior, market context, your room types and key products, they're uniquely priced to maximize that revenue and grow and share and enhance that booking experience. And you're in control with a flexible demand-based approach that allows you to interact and affect your pricing strategy as needed. And by doing all these things, we've seen an incredible amount of pricing power be pushed out into the industry that allows for your organization to continue on to provide the best product at the right price at the right profitability. So I'm going to stop and hopefully take some questions, because that was rapid fire TED Talk style. Whoa. Don't hesitate to connect with me on LinkedIn or mail me directly, but grill me. Let's go.
Well done, Mike. Well, let's take some questions from our judges. Who may go first? Daniel,
I would like to go first.
A question from you.
Hi, Mike.
Daniele, sorry, before making the question, just would like to say that unfortunately we can give you only one question each, because otherwise we don't have enough space for everybody. So sorry about that. I know that you are full of questions, but you can always contact all our speakers. So sorry, Daniele, just go ahead.
Okay, thanks for reminding me, because I already prepared a long list anyhow. So Mike, I will connect with you separately. So this topic is really thrilling. So this is already available in IDeaS in the latest version?
It is.
Okay. So my question is, historically, I've been always working in resorts, and the biggest challenge of my life has been really having the revenue management system work with me but I also need to look after 50% of the business, which is trade and static rates. So how would you recommend to utilize this setup, knowing that there is a static rates out there, and together with that, a ton of complaints on a daily basis of undercutting and so on. So how would you suggest doing that?
Well, your static rates are oftentimes going to be negotiated, is my assumption here, right? So you're going to need to move those through so you can get that inventory squared away. But what we typically like to look at is of the other business that is yieldable beyond some of those other aspects, is that for resorts, oftentimes we have conversations around the revenue per occupant. So you're looking at the total profitability of the guest, and you're able to look at that per person pricing, and you can deliver that revenue. Deliver that price to maximize that revenue per occupant. And based upon that, you can take a look at the profitability of the entirety of what the guest is doing on that rate. If it's an all-inclusive rate and resort, what we look to do is first understand the non-contract business, and then start to yield that. You will get some complaints, but you can also look at the group modules, and we have the ability to go back and look at those group modules and determine whether or not we should be able to go through and identify an increase or a decrease of those static rates.
Okay. I'll stop with the questions, otherwise we're going to be here the whole night. So thank you, Mike.
Yeah, no worries. And if I didn't give you a complete enough answer, I have a whole bastion of colleagues that can get into some very detailed questions for you, Daniela.
All right, cheers. Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm sure they can. Well, thanks very much, Danielle. Shumi, any questions from your side? Oh, I think you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Hi, Mike. How are you?
Hi, Shumi. How are you?
Good. I've got one specific question, and it's around potential cannibalization. So obviously now that you're yielding all of those rates independently, I did see a little screen that showed that you could fence them, but is it up to the revenue manager to fence them, or is there some automatic fencing that takes place to ensure that there's no cannibalization between those rates?
Well, so the answer in truly is both. So our system does allow for through the configurations that the revenue management team and the hotel provides to influence that system. Now, we wouldn't be IDeaS without talking about the way that you can do that in an automated and optimized way. So that fencing, one of the things that we built in is for those linked rates, you can fence those rates off so you can ensure that you can close them down and they don't operate within the parameters and cannibalize. But if there's some uniqueness of what the revenue manager knows versus what the system knows, then the revenue manager does have the ability to go through and override some of those aspects or change some of the configurations.
Okay. I do have another question, but I know we're out of time, so I'll ask you another time.
Yeah, no worries. Tejas can also help you out as well.
Yeah.
Federica is keeping our time here. Federica, how are we doing for another question?
If it's short and we stay in 1 minute, let's go. Less than 1 minute, please.
Let's go.
I'll try to make it quick.
Question.
Like shooting.
Oh, I don't know if this one's going to be a quick one. How does this differ to what some of your competitors are already doing in the market? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no worries. I believe that was Roxanne.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks for asking the question. So there's a major difference. And so do our competitors have the ability to publish rates and go out and to be able to isolate some of those rates on a per segment basis? The answer is yes. But what we end up doing is that that's retroactive. That is taking into consideration the rates, and it gets rolled into post optimization, to where we're actually doing this in a proactive way. So the system's continuing to look at the uptake and the booking pace of these particular rates, and it's automatically responding, moving in a forward moving fashion into the future booking pace and the optimizations. So so I guess the biggest difference is that our system is always re-optimizing for the future, and not necessarily reacting to what is booked We actually bring in a concept of booked versus stayed, which gives more intelligence around the actuality of how you're bringing in those rates and materialization of the booking pace against those rates.
Thank you, Mike, for being really short. So yeah, Christina and myself wants to thank you for participating for this great pitch and Q&A. And now we have to go to the next one. So let's have a look at the clip.
Thank you all.